Buenos dias, buenos noches. Uh, willkommen and push to shout. Das vidania es
Hola,
Skippy.
amigos. Hola.
Buenos estas.
Uh,
Fuck.
wow, you didn't silence that.
This
That
is the
happened
Push
right
to
before
Shout
we went on,
podcast.
and he didn't
That
silence
was
it.
the alert that we just
Okay,
went live, actually.
okay. Well, maybe you should have silenced it so that you didn't get that alert.
I think
Anyway,
it's connecting with the viewers. It's like, I know what it's
it
like.
humanizes you, is what it
I know what it's
does.
like to be you,
Hey,
to be
even though we're running this
waiting with
huge
bated
podcast,
breath for us to go live.
we're like you. We have cell phones, we get notifications, we're just like the fans. We're not living up in our mansions. We don't have servants telling us,
I've got
we're
teeth
just,
just like your teeth.
yeah,
We're
we're
all
just,
connected.
we're just the
It's the
same
circle of
as
life.
you.
Fuck. Skippy, what's up? How's it going?
What's up is that this is episode 67 of the Push It Out podcast, coming at you on time on a Thursday night, 9/8 Central. We have some video games to talk about, and we're going to do it right now. But first, I want to talk about some non-video game things, because it wouldn't be a true video game podcast if you didn't go off topic
It's
a
better
little bit,
this way. It's better this
off the
way.
beaten path. I think you finished this as well as me. House of Cards,
Yes.
season 4.
Season 4 House of Cards. So okay, well, what did you think? I want to hear that first.
I didn't regret watching it, but was underwhelmed, but not surprised that I was underwhelmed, I guess. I enjoyed it on a very superficial level, and if I could go back in time and not watch it, I would still watch it.
I don't regret watching it or anything. I'm just really tired of it. Like, I think it was better than last season. Last season, it seemed like they were trying really hard to give it depth, and it just didn't work. Where half the season was like Doug Stamper and his struggle to not kill some chick. Like, just this completely nonsensical character struggle. Oh, but he's so sad, and he's an alcoholic, and like all of these trappings of a prestige drama, but none of the actual substance. When really House of Cards was at its best when it was a stylish political thriller with backstabs and twists and just stuff happening. And this season was a little more like that, but it still is just, it annoyed me more even than the last season, because I thought there'd be something that happened.
Yeah.
A lot of characters revolved through, but I still didn't. What happened, really?
That's exactly how I felt, especially like the first half, I'd say, of the season was just kind of like anything that did happen just kind of happened outside of, like, the whole appeal of House of Cards is Kevin Spacey being this devious bastard and like getting his way and coming up with these crazy plans that either work or fail. But instead it's more like, oh, these things happened out of his control and there's not much you can do about them, and they were either good or bad for him.
Yeah,
And it's
I'm
just
not gonna spoil this season, because it's not bad, really. It's really not bad.
I mean,
But
I still recommend it to people. Like, I still say, like, yeah, I mean, I warn them that, like, it's not like the best show in the world, but it's fun.
I think it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's at its best when Kevin Spacey's eating up the scenery.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm not going to spoil anything, but he's not. There are some episodes that he doesn't have much of a presence in.
Definitely.
That sucked. I hated that.
There's notably, like, I feel like there's less of his fourth wall breaking stuff.
That I loved, that there was less of that.
I have mixed feelings about it, because I like the fact that there's less of it. I don't like the fact that when it happens, it doesn't feel like it has much of an impact. Like, I thought that, okay, I think it was like the beginning of season 2 where they went the whole episode without him doing it at all. When the first season he did it all the time.
We forgot about you.
And then he looks at the camera and says, "You thought I'd forgotten about you," or whatever. And that was like the coolest. That's the best moment in the entire show.
Well, it's good. It's really good.
I like it a lot. but that's the thing is like I like it when it's impactful. But instead, it's just like they kind of feel like they have to do one per episode or something, and
They
it
tone it
doesn't
down this
necessarily.
season notably from the last
Yeah,
one. Because the last season they were just doing it all the time, and it lacked any kind of precision at all. And in season 2 they did that also. Not the first episode of season 2, but the rest. It was pretty heavy-handed with it. I'm glad
yeah,
that they pared it back a little bit, just because there was one where he's talking about the kid climbing the tree. Like that one was well placed. And
I liked
it
that
wasn't
one.
among the most memorable moments of the show, but it was a good example of how to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
Well, it gives insight into his character. Like it feels it feels like it's meaningful, and a lot of them don't. They're just kind of like, oh, here's a little thing to the side where it isn't really necessary. I don't know. It's not memorable,
sometimes it's just
definitely.
seems like a not really a crutch because I think it's a useful tool to solve some
Sure.
logistical problems. Like when he's being such a good bullshitter that you wouldn't be able to tell if you were just observing him.
Yeah, yeah.
Then yeah, but it's always better
That's
when
where it
it's
was
not.
really.
It's always better when it's not just that.
That's where it was so good in season one was that like you're still kind of figuring him out a little bit, and you don't necessarily know his motivations. You don't necessarily you know his motivations, but you don't necessarily know his methods. And so, yeah, when he breaks the fourth wall, it gives you some insight into like, okay, here's what he's actually doing. But now I feel like you know the character well enough that you don't need that necessarily. Like you kind of always know when he's bullshitting someone. It's never questioned. And so it does feel a little bit uh, useless to me, and just the way it's written. The writing of the show I've always been kind
It's
of
not
conflicted
good.
about. It's
It's
not
not
good.
good.
It's it's so on the nose,
It's
and
bad.
I don't know if I wouldn't say it's bad,
It's
but like
okay. It is often bad.
yeah, it's often really bad. Um, and as a whole, it's just kind of.
Fine.
I feel like it thinks it's better than it is,
Oh
which
yeah, yeah.
makes it
Well,
worse than
it's
it
hard to
is.
tell
Makes
because
it feel worse than it
some
is.
of it, some of it, I'm not sure if it's the writing pretending to be better than it is, or if it's the production value and the acting being so good
Well, all of
that it
that,
just
yeah,
clearly doesn't have the writing as a foundation.
yeah.
But it has like the appearance because the visual style we talked about this before was kind of set in place by David Fincher, a
Mm.
very prolific director who was brought on to direct the first couple episodes. And it's a very striking style. It's a stylish show, and it hasn't really been shot quite as well as those first 2 episodes since, or even close to it. It's still got some really nice production.
Yeah,
It's a very pretty show, and it's able to take what would be pretty boring places, like offices and back rooms. They feel seedy and like cool colors, and it's cool. It's a cool
yeah.
production. Um, but lately, it's been
Doesn't live
looking
up to
more
that.
generic, and
And yeah, I guess I don't know. I haven't noticed that change much of a change in the production so much as just I feel like the story has gotten a little less like
tight.
I
It's
don't
not
I'm not
tight
gonna spoil
anymore.
anything, but it yeah, it just doesn't feel like there's a focus at all. It feels like it's just kind of stumbling to the next season. And you kind of get that impression of him as a character too, where it's like there's not this
They
thing
always,
for him to
yeah,
cling on
they
to.
always talk about this plan, but
Yeah.
they don't know what the fuck is going on. Like
Yeah,
they're
nobody
just stumbling upon random
yeah,
happenings.
nobody has any plans. Nobody's in control. It's just things happen out of their control, and they react to them.
Yeah,
And the only time you get a hint of an actual plan being devised is in the last moments of the last episode, which actually made me kind of excited for the next season because it was like all through the
yeah,
season you don't get anything to bite your teeth into, and then finally there's an actual plan, and he actually starts to carry it through, and then the season's over. So
yep.
it's like shit.
And it loves to end on cliffhangers that it
Of
never
course,
ever delivers on.
I know. I'm really worried about
I
that.
already know.
Yeah.
Okay, this season convinced me. The last season, that was the only thing that interested me was the way that it ended. I thought, okay, that could have some
Mm,
pretty huge fallout. And then
yeah. Just
so I don't care
unravels.
anymore. I don't care anymore.
But yeah, I feel like the biggest, not the biggest mistake, but like one of their big mistakes they made was putting a character in the show who was supposedly a really good writer,
God,
and then
that
their writing isn't
still
actually that
irritated
good.
me that he brought me back, or not me back, that he
That
brought.
character,
It irritated me that they brought him back,
yeah,
because that was terrible in the last season, and I
yeah.
thought he was done. I was like, thank God he's not coming back to read more of Scorpio and the soft waves tickled my God, it's as she left the
He'll like
haze
start
of the
speaking
city
in
below her.
metaphors while he's talking and be like, I can feel it in the walls. It's like the walls are quiet,
It's like
and
there's
it's just like
it's
Jesus
like there's a
Christ.
ghost in the walls.
Yeah, that stuff is legitimately cringy, and it wouldn't be as bad if, well, there's no way that could be good. But the fact that everyone else acts like he's a good writer
Yes,
is that's what makes it so bad. But anyway,
it's distracting. But overall, I think something that may not have had anything to do with House of Cards that colored my impression of it was watching The West Wing and then having to go back and watch House of
yeah,
Cards because it just doesn't stack up at all.
right.
The West Wing is just part of it is just because it's a much more realistic show.
Yeah, does West Wing have the
Characters behave
same
like
like?
human beings.
But do they? But are there any devious characters? Is there any of that
No,
like
there's
political intrigue, or is it?
there's lots of political intrigue, but
Yeah.
none of it is like I'm an evil person and this is a den of rats where
Okay, it doesn't
everybody
have to be like evil though, but like
backstabs each
people
other.
like yeah, but people like working behind each other's backs and stuff. I do like that stuff.
Yeah,
That's kind of what
yeah.
I want
There
from.
is a lot of intrigue in the West Wing.
Yeah,
It's really cool,
I might have to
but
check it
it's a
out.
lot better because genuine foreign policy crises arise, and the president's got to figure out what do I do, and
Yeah,
or we don't have a translator, and this dignitary's upset, and it's interesting, real stuff
yeah,
that House of Cards just can't. Because in House of Cards, it's this completely cynical blanket view of everyone, which is entertaining because they're just terrible and they
yeah.
do terrible things to each other. But it just there's not much substance to it
No.
because after you really let it sink in that literally no one's redeemable except for maybe these couple guys who are side characters, um, like Tom Hammerschmidt. But
Sure.
yeah,
What kind of character is that though? Literally, all he does
exactly.
throughout the season is like
He is like
writes a
an
story.
event that happens to the characters. He's
Exactly.
not
He's not
really
even
a
really a
character
character.
in himself.
And the main character is like you've got the two main characters who are okay, they serve their purpose, and then you've got I'd say like the deepest character, and that's in quotation marks for you audio listeners, is Doug Stamper,
I
and
I hate him.
the
I
only
hate
depth
his
you get
character.
is like oh he regrets his actions. That's it. That's his depth,
The depth is that he's a weirdo,
and he's a
psychopath,
weirdo.
nut job, crackhead, freak. That's the
Anyway,
official Michael Kelly bio for that character.
um,
He's in a lot of stuff lately. With
I've seen him. Yeah, I've seen him, especially on
he's
TV.
everywhere.
Um, but yeah, all right, enough of that. I have one more thing, non-video game related, for me to talk about, which is I watched UFC
Hmm.
196 or something like that, uh, which was surprisingly fun. I didn't think I'd enjoy it as much as I did, but I think it was like
Had
one of
you
the
ever
best.
watched UFC before?
Not really, no, not past like it being on the TV and me passively watching it in like a party or something. But um, so I was actually like, paying attention, you know, and trying to learn. I researched a little bit and learned like about the fighters and all that, and
Learn how to fight.
yeah, now I know how to fight MMA. But no, it was good. It was I was lucky because there were two major, like the two biggest fights were both major upsets. So it was a
Upsets are
very
nice.
good one to start on. You know, you had the woman who beat Ronda Rousey got beat, and then Conor McGregor, who's on like an 18 or 19 or 16, I don't know, he's going a big win streak, got beat, and so that's exciting, you know.
Yeah.
And it was they were both very good fights, and uh, it was a good time, and I might check that out some more because it's just it's a
How does
fun
it
thing to
stack
watch.
up to the WWE?
It doesn't compare. Like, those are two completely. The
What are you
appeal,
saying?
I guess, is completely different because in UFC you're really looking at the competitive, like it's the competitiveness that makes it entertaining. Although of course they still do. It's weird because they do professional wrestling style things. Like the fighters build up their character and like there's basically in UFC heels and faces, good guys and bad guys, and they like in the press conferences and stuff, they'll like play that up, and Conor McGregor will shit talk, and everyone hates him, but you're supposed to hate him, and you're supposed to want to watch him lose, and that's what brings in the money, and he knows that. So it's weird because it's a real sport, but they are characters, just like in professional wrestling. So there are some weird parallels that I didn't really expect to see, but definitely. But yeah, when it comes to actually watching the events themselves, it's a completely different appeal, but still appealing nonetheless. And then Formula One's going to start pretty soon, so that's going to be my other sport that I'm going to start watching. And hopefully this season won't be as boring as last season, because like halfway through last season I stopped watching because it was so became a parade. But yeah, there you go. I did that. Not much else to say
Sweet.
about it.
Well, I got really into Rocket League.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I saw you playing it at some point with your podcast. I mean your Mumble buddies,
Yeah.
the Cumblebees.
I played it like last year just for a little bit and then didn't really pick it up again.
Mm-hmm.
But I got back into it and I'm really enjoying it a lot more than I was then.
Awesome.
I didn't dislike it then. I liked it, but now I'm really enjoying it and trying to learn stuff. And
Yeah.
It's cool. I like it.
Getting your aerials in and all that.
Yeah.
Have you played the custom maps?
I played
and
a
stuff?
couple. The day I got back into it, I was actually playing split screen with my friends.
Oh, okay.
And Nick, who you may or may not know, he's in like one or two of my videos, and on the Mumble, he set the settings to like no gravity, the fastest possible ball with time warp stuff,
Yeah.
and a massive ball that was a cube.
Yep. You
And
can do
no
ridiculous
one
stuff.
scored for like 45 minutes, and then we just quit. It was awful, but that interested me again.
With those like custom settings, you kind of have to be subtle with it. Like you have to kind of like go like
Yeah,
half
like
gravity,
pinball.
and yeah, you can't just go all the way with it, or it just becomes so stupid that it's not fun.
I absolutely agree.
But the maps, but I'm talking about the maps. They added some maps that are like totally different from the regular ones. One of them is like in the shape of a donut, kind of,
That's cool.
or like a horseshoe, and so both of the goals are on the same side of the map, kind of like they're separated a little bit, but there's not much, and that completely changes how, because like you can clear a ball from your own goal and it'll go around the outside and it can actually like go in the other goal. It's weird. It completely
Cool.
changes how you have to think about it. And then there's another one that's like the same as the regulation map, but then there's two lanes on the outside that are a little bit elevated, and then the goal itself is at like maybe like a 60-degree angle, and then there's a ramp that goes over the goal. So like it's a lot easier to be going along the walls and like hit balls off the walls and stuff. It changes. Some of the maps change them in really subtle ways, and some are like really major. But they say they're all in the same style of like this Tron kind of like cyberspace thing. And so they said that now that they've got that style
Is this
down, where
stuff
they're not.
Rocket Labs? Is that what that is?
It might be. I don't remember. I don't know. But now that they've got that style down, and they don't feel like they have to custom make a different map each time, with like actual different textures. They say they're going to be like testing and releasing a lot of those. So that's kind of
That's
exciting. But yeah, I started playing it a little more. I played a few hours, maybe about a week ago, right after our last podcast, and I was really enjoying it 3v3, playing with people I know. And then the next day, I was like, well, I still want to play some, but I don't want to put together like I just want to play for like 20 minutes, not like
Right.
get with friends or anything. So I tried out some 1v1 ranked, and I hadn't played in a couple months maybe, and I was getting destroyed 1v1. So I think what's happened is basically everyone who still plays Rocket
It
League,
seems like a totally different game.
it is a totally different, like you have to play way more defensively, and it's little mistakes can just kill you. There's no teammates to back you up, but which kind of appeals to me. I like the idea behind it, but I think the rest of the community who actually plays 1v1 has gotten so much better. Like the people who actually play it are way more experienced. Because I was being put up against people who were like their little thing said like legend, which means I think they have like 500 hours or something in the game, and I have like 40. So like I was just getting destroyed, and it wasn't fun at all. And just don't even do 1v1. Don't even bother. I hate it. It made me hate the game for a while, but 3v3
I like doing 1v1 against people locally, but
sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't want to do ranked.
You don't want to do it online, trust me. It will make you so fucking mad, especially since most of the goals are caused by your own mistake. They like punish you for your mistake, and it takes forever. Like you'll be on the other side of the thing, but they'll get ahead of you or whatever, and there's nothing you can do to stop them, and it's just it makes me want to throw my controller. Yeah. I also got back into CS:GO, which I haven't played in a little while.
Really?
They've changed a lot. So they changed Nuke. They've completely updated Nuke. Yeah, it's.
When's the last time you played? Was it about the last time we were playing?
No, it was probably after that. I've got a few people that I play with, but it's been probably 3 months.
Because I've been out of it for a while.
Yeah, I'd been out of it for a few months, and so I got deranked and all that. They changed Nuke in some like really. I won't get into too much detail because it's boring as hell for people who don't know what I'm talking about. But like, do you remember people can get up on the silo?
Yeah.
Outside. They've made that easier, which I think is a good decision because there's no reason for it to be hard to get up there. But they've also made it
where you can.
Well, no, it's just completely different. You can move down from silo to mini, which you've always been able to do. So like the roof of the little hut. But then you can go across that and get onto the catwalk and all the way to heaven. On A site. So like you can literally just infiltrate A site from all the way around.
So that makes it nowhere near as CT sided, I guess.
Exactly. It's probably more T sided now.
That's cool.
Than CT
That's really cool.
It's really cool because it feels more like they've also completely changed like the orientation of the B site area with like the tunnels and stuff. Where like now, if you go down Secret, God, poor people who don't know what I'm talking about. This must be so bizarre to listen to. If you go down Secret and you turn left where like the vents are. Instead of that just being a dead end and you have to go in the vents, it now goes down some stairs and around, and there's like basically where Toxic used to be. Now that is a door that you can open up, and then there's another Toxic that's built in like on the other side. It's really different, and it feels more like an infiltration thing where like the terrorists have to really infiltrate the building, and then the counter terrorists have to infiltrate again, and then there's more options. You know, there's more confusion, and when you're guarding a bomb site, there's a lot more entrances and stuff that you have to keep an eye on. Which it was already that kind of map where like there was a lot going on, so now it's even more like that, which I'm really enjoying. It's really cool. So I recommend just going back to test that out alone. But then they've also added a really overpowered weapon called the revolver, which I think I mentioned at some point. And then they nerfed it to the point where now it's useless and there's no reason to use it over the deagle. So whatever. It's still fun to use because like you have to like cock the trigger to pull it, but it's stupid. It's completely useless now. But yeah, I was having fun with that. So I'm going to be playing more of that, definitely.
Interesting.
Let's see. So have you played more Mother 3?
Yeah, okay. I'm not saying much about it. Real quick. It's a really good sequel. And by that I mean there's certain things you look for in a sequel, and there's certain things you don't want to see. Mm-hmm. You want the spirit of the first game to be extended, but you also don't want it to be a rehash or to be too similar. And Mother 3 is probably the best example of that sequel philosophy I've seen in a while, where the tone, even, like Mother has a very unique tone that people talk about, Earthbound especially, but Mother 3 even has a different tone from it, but the same like creative spirit is there. Like it shares something elemental, but it's not just Earthbound but better, or Earthbound with all the good stuff better and all the bad stuff gone. It's not like that at all. It's a very different kind of story, which it makes it all the more interesting that it's a great sequel to a game that it's that different from. And that's all I'll say about Mother 3. I'm close to the end now.
Already? Wow.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Interesting. I have a new video game that I got yesterday. That is, it's like for the last 24 hours, it has been my favorite thing. Um, it it's called Stardew Valley.
Okay, I haven't heard anything about this yet.
Okay, well, have you ever heard of Animal Crossing?
Yes, I
It
loved
is
Animal
it
Crossing.
is Animal Crossing,
Fuck yeah.
mixed
All right,
with Harvest Moon,
I'm gonna download
which
it
I've
right
never
now.
played, but so the concept is it's a 2D uh, pixelated. It looks kind of like a later Pokemon game, I guess. Like it looks like it has the art style of like a Terraria and a lot of the gameplay style of Terraria, but it's not side scrolling. It's a map. But you are a farmer. You move on to a little farm in a small town, and you start your little farm, and and you grow things, and you have to water them, and when they're ready
I'm
to
in.
pluck
I'm
out,
in.
you sell them to the guy in the town square. And
I
then there's little
loved
events that
Animal
happen on certain
Crossing
days, and you have
so
to like build
much.
your relationship with other town members and stuff, and you can go
Do they talk in
fishing.
like gibberish that's unique to each
No,
character,
so
like
it
Animal
doesn't.
Crossing?
I would say it doesn't have as much like style as Animal Crossing. Like Animal Crossing, a big appeal I think is like that cuteness, that style.
It
It
doesn't
does
need
have
to
a
be
lot of
cute.
cuteness, but it's still a cute game. But it doesn't have as much going on, I guess, as Animal Crossing. In like the art department
Is it
and the sound
faster
department.
than Animal Crossing?
I'd say it's probably around the same speed. I haven't played Animal Crossing in a long time, but it seems a lot like it. You know, like pacing and everything. And so like let me tell you like a typical day in I've gone through, so there's 4 seasons, and each season has 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And when the season's up, you have to start a new, like you can't grow the same crops, you know, like during the summer you grow wheat, and during the spring you grow potatoes and parsley and stuff. And so like you have to manage your little farm and build it, and you can build a barn and get some animals, and you can get a chicken coop and all that stuff. And and so you wake up in the morning and you water all your plants. It's like the first thing you do in the morning.
That's
And it
great.
takes energy. Every action takes a little energy off your little bar. And you can restore your energy by like eating stuff or whatever, but usually you just use all your energy for the day and then go to bed, and next day the bar's back up. So you water all your plants, and that takes some energy or whatever and some time. And then you go into the town and you sell any of the plants that have matured, and now you've got your materials. And maybe you clear out some of your farm by chopping down some trees and clearing out the weeds and stuff. uh, and then you can fish or you can mine. There's like a mine that you go down, and I think it's like procedurally generated. um, and there's little missions that you can do that they'll be posted on the little town square. And if it's an event day, like there was like an Easter kind of thing where you had an Easter egg hunt, and I won the Easter egg hunt and won a little straw hat. It is the most relaxing game I've played. Like you just sit there and you just go, okay, and you've got your little checklist of
Everyone
things
in the
that you need to
chat is
do.
saying it's way more like Harvest Moon than
I
Animal
guess
Crossing.
I don't know anything about Harvest Moon, but
I haven't played Harvest Moon either, but
I've heard that comparison
I
made. And
heard it's good. When I used to subscribe to Nintendo Power as a wee lad, I remember reading a lot of
yeah,
good things about Harvest Moon from the marketers
it's
who were paid to sell me Harvest Moon.
this game is like it taps into your subconscious where like, oh, I have to keep playing. And it's got like that one more day thing, like that one more turn of Civ 5. It's got that kind of appeal of like, well, I have to play another day. Um, because hey, my crops are gonna be here the next day, or oh, tomorrow's so and so's birthday and I want to give them this gift or whatever. And so it's got that going for it, but then it's also got the whole like management sim kind of thing where like you're just managing your farm and customizing things and moving things around. And oh man, it is a very relaxing little game, and I love it. And it's the kind of game that you can play while watching something else, like not paying
That's nice.
100% attention. So
That would have been
I
good to
like it a lot.
play while watching House of Cards season 4,
Yeah, probably.
because that is probably more enjoyable if you disengage from it in some way.
Yeah. So I highly recommend it. It is just, if you like that kind of game, you're gonna like this game. I think it blatantly rips off Harvest Moon and Animal Crossing, but that's fine because those, it makes a good game. Um, all right, enough
Awesome.
about that. I'm gonna play that like right after the podcast probably. I've just been
Yeah, I
all
just
my
bought
free
it.
time has been playing that. And yeah, it's $15 on Steam, so pretty good deal.
Okay.
News. There's some haps.
Yeah, there are some haps. So Street Fighter V has been rocky since its launch.
To put it
First, there
kindly.
was the missing feature stuff that some people complained about. I didn't think that was a big deal, really, and we talked
Yeah.
about that, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. But there was a problem, and there still is, where people have been rage quitting when they're about to lose and keeping their win records high and just exploiting the rank system completely and frustrating everybody they play against. And they said they implemented some kind of punishment system now, but I just saw Flimsy complaining about it, so I'm guessing it's still not
So
kosher.
I meant to look this up, but then I had to go through my mind and in Stardew Valley instead of doing research for the podcast. But I meant to look up exactly what the new system is. But from what I've heard, I think what the system is like instead of just automatically punishing someone for rage quitting, you have to report the match, and then someone has to watch the match and see the rage quit.
No, that's how it used to be. What they said is that they changed the system to automatically detect based on their win percentage and like the time that they usually lose connection, and they can tell based on like okay, it apparently was a very sophisticated algorithm that they set up and spent a lot of time working on where because you can check things like okay, this person 90 or 100% of the time that they lose connection, they're losing. Okay, that's a red flag number one for our system. Red flag number two, they always quit well into a match, never early on, where you would expect connection issues to crop up. You know, so yeah, I do believe that a system like that can be effective. I don't know that they've sorted out all the problems with that, but it seems to be the right kind of system where they don't need human beings to examine each case because that's a serious problem.
Yeah, I can't believe that game was shipped without that automatically in place. That's like unbelievable to me because it's such an obvious thing. Like you need to have a system in place that punishes players for doing that. But I think Rocket League also had the same problem for a while where it wasn't punishing people for rage quitting, which is just ridiculous. I don't really mind the way CS:GO does it is just like no sympathy at all. If you disconnect, you get banned for a certain amount of time, and then if it happens again in a certain amount of time, you get banned for longer. And that seems really effective. You very rarely see people quit those games.
And
but
you know, even if it's not your fault, it still sucks for your team. So it's not really
if you've
unfair
got a bad enough
in any
connection
way.
that you can't play, then
You can't play.
Yeah, you shouldn't be playing ranked because you're gonna be ruining people's matches. But I do see why it could be an issue, like especially in like where there's these shorter matches. I feel like a lot of people would play, and then they'd be losing in their last match. It'd be late at night. They're planning on quitting soon anyway, and they rage quit their last match, and it's still frustrating. But that wouldn't happen as often. But still, that could happen. So I can see why they would want like an algorithm that more accurately detects it. But whatever. It's just ridiculous to me that they didn't have that in place already. But anyway, whatever. Neither of us play that. Speaking of fighting games, did you ever hear of Rising Thunder?
Nope.
Rising Thunder was I think it had some, semi-popularity. It seemed like had some traction. It was a early access game where it was just a fighting game with robots, and it seemed like a pretty standard fighting game. I'm sure there's some really nuance to it that it changes that appeals to a certain audience or whatever. But I saw some positive things about it. People seem to be pretty high on it. Its developer Radiant Entertainment was bought out by Riot Games, developers of League of Legends, and they just completely scrapped the project, which is bizarre to me because it seemed like it was pretty close to being done. Like it was an early access game that people were playing, so I can't imagine it had that far to go.
Wait a minute.
So they just canceled the game completely, and I think their plan is to make. Rumor has it their plan is to make a like League of Legends fighting game using those characters or whatever. whatever. That's pretty depressing to me. I don't care about Rising Thunder, but it's sad to see it just completely scrapped in place of this garbage spin-off thing that's probably not going to be any good. Whatever. Fuck that. And speaking of developers shutting down,
And this I am not displeased about.
or surprised about,
Yeah.
Microsoft shut down Lionhead Studios, which were creators of a little game you might remember called Fable Legends, which was shown at the last. Was it the last E3 or the one before that?
It's both, I think.
Which was like
And
a
literally no one
co-op.
cared. I just saw a trailer for it playing on like a Best Buy display for
Weird.
a Surface computer,
Yeah.
and that was just like a week ago.
Oh, I guess they were gonna put it on like a tablets.
It was
and
Windows
stuff.
10 and crap.
Whatever.
That's streaming, and
It looked bad. It was a co-op like adventure.
it looked like a fucking MOBA. Really.
It looked corporate. Like, oh, these are the games that are popular, and here's a mixture of those things in a really like unimaginative way.
Top-down magic swords, arrows.
I think there was like a game master or whatever that would like try to stop the play. I don't know.
Like
It looked
Evolve,
it looked
almost.
really really stale.
God,
So
remember Evolve?
yes, yep. Remember that was going to be like an esport. Why did they market that as an esport? That was bizarre. Anyway, so that's all we have to say about that stuff. No Man's Sky. Sean Murray, who is the cute man. By cute, I don't mean that in a gay way, guys. I'm straight. He's cute as in he's adorable. You need to look up Sean Murray if you don't know who I'm talking about. He's going around, he's touring around, and he's giving, I guess, closed demos to press of No Man's Sky, and kind of explaining a little more about what you actually do in that game. And it seems like I'm kind of excited for it. It seems like the game is essentially like your kind of typical survivor game, where like it drops you in the world and you have to collect items to build new things, to get you to do more things, to build more things, et cetera, et cetera. But the big difference is, of course, you're in space and you can go to different solar systems and planets and all that. So it's
Now
like
this-
an exploration survival game, I guess.
This is a game that I really just need to play at this point.
Yeah. Well,
It's
this has
been
made
long
me-
enough. I need
yeah.
to play it.
Seeing this information come out has convinced me that like, okay, I don't need any more information. I don't want to hear any more about the game because it feels like a big part of the game is going to be discovering it, you know. And they've been very cagey, obviously, about their information. So I think that they kind of realize that that's part of the appeal. So that's part of why they're not talking about it very much. But it looks cool. It looks fun. I'm looking forward to it, even though people have been really negative about it lately. 60 FPS Dark Souls 3 on the
Yeah.
PC.
So there were rumors for a while because in the first translated interview thing at the Dark Souls 3 unveiling, people were asking questions of Miyazaki and like a From Software representative. And the representative said something like they asked if there would be 60 frames per second in support on any version of the game or the PC version. And they said Dark Souls 3 is 30 frames per second or something like that.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
a lot of people were worried. And just today, Namco Bandai has confirmed that Dark Souls 3, they said, forget what you heard. Dark Souls 3 is 60 frames per second on PC.
That's
Which,
good.
of course, it should be. What was disappointing to hear was that there's not going to be an orchestral soundtrack for Dark Souls 3.
Does that mean that they're going to
It means it'll be
simulate it
synthesized.
electronically? Yeah.
Now, I don't actually have a source for that. That's hearsay, but usually Carlos tells me these things and they're true. But it might be worth checking. But Bloodborne had a fantastic orchestrated soundtrack.
I'd be kind of surprised because it seems like the soundtrack. I mean, it's a major part of those games, you know. Especially like the boss fights are largely defined by the music. And I guess you could make a good synthesized soundtrack.
Can somebody set us
obviously,
straight?
but
Was this announced? I'm pretty sure this is true.
way to be
but-
giving everyone false
well, you
information.
know, that's what we're about.
They're supposed to rely on us to be to be trustworthy news sources for
Some of the
video game
things
news.
in Dark Souls 1 sounded synthesized, but others sounded clearly orchestral.
It was probably a mix. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of how it's usually done, you know. But
Either way, the
well,
game looks cool. I'll buy it.
I think I'll buy it too. I don't know if the game looks cool because I've still successfully avoided pretty much anything about. I haven't seen gameplay of that game yet. Um, I haven't even really seen
I
screenshots
saw
of
one
it.
like shitty off-camera thing from
Yeah,
E3 the first time that they were doing that, and then haven't really seen.
I've seen like the closest I've seen is like thumbnails of screenshots. So like I still don't even really know what the game looks like. So I'm super excited. It's fun to go in blind, which I haven't really I don't get to do that a lot these
Yeah.
days. So yeah, it's only been 40 minutes and we've already gotten through everything we wanted to talk about.
On that subject, though, uh, I've been catching up on the Mother 4 stuff, the fan made project.
Oh, I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, so it's really impressive how good the production of that game is. From what they've shown, it's like an even more polished Mother 3. Obviously, it's easier to make a game like that now than it was to make on the Game Boy Advance in 2006.
Yeah,
But it's the detail and the animation is beautiful, and the music is incredible. They've already released a big portion of the soundtrack. I think they're holding back certain tracks, and I haven't listened to all of them. But the little I've listened to is, I was really blown away because it does live up to the soundtracks of the other games.
yeah.
Um, I forgot how that was related. Oh yeah, I think it was the soundtrack. I think that's what made me think of it. Either
So
way,
it's
Mother
who's
4
make like is
further
it a
along.
team of people?
It's a team, and people have been upset with them because for a few months they weren't showing a lot of progress publicly, but they said they were doing it because people were getting tired of the constant updates over nothing, and who knows. But they seem to be chugging along. They famously, or I guess infamously, missed a deadline. They said they were going to release it summer last year, and it's still not out. And they said it's probably going to be this year, but it's a free project.
Yeah, I mean those
And
always run into these things.
what they've made so far is honestly like impressive. It'll be a cool game. The only thing I am not 100% confident in is the quality of the writing, because you can't know that until you play it.
Yeah,
But as a game and as like an imitation of Mother, it's amazing.
that's cool. Usually, I mean, usually those fan projects end up being first of all disasters and they're never completed, but secondly, usually not very high quality. Like the infamous one that I always think of is completely trying to overhaul Morrowind in the Oblivion and now Skyrim engine by just like building the game anew, including voice acting and all that shit. Which Morrowind didn't even have voice acting. I
It's
mean, it
just
had
way
it
too
for
ambitious.
yeah. It's ridiculously ambitious and doomed to fail, but people still try. Bless their hearts. So yeah, like I instantly assume the worst about those things. So it's really cool to hear that that's actually working out.
It's yeah. It the sprite animation in Mother 3 is amazing, and the sprite animation for Mother 4 looks even better because obviously it's somebody who has a lot of time on their hands and doesn't have to
Yeah,
fulfill like deadlines. So they had room to put a lot of detail in. But there's just neat little things. Like one character is kind of a cool biker guy, and he takes out a cigarette and then he lights it with PK fire, and there's like this little red animation that comes around him and then flares up on his thumb and it lights the cigarette, and it's just a cool little idle animation. But there's just so much detail because they had
yeah,
the luxury to put detail in.
yeah.
Itoi, Shigesato Itoi, in an interview, once said, and I guess he said this several times, that he'll never make a Mother 4, that the series is done with Mother 3, or at least that he's done making them. But what he said more than once is that he wouldn't be opposed to a Mother 4 made by somebody else.
Yeah,
So it's kind of weird, and it is in a way fitting. It feels more like a mood or a philosophy than like an auteur showing you themselves. Like a Tarantino movie couldn't be made by anyone else,
Yeah.
but you could make a Mother 4 that's a very personal game from somebody else, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Itoy is the OG for bringing us that sensibility, but it's one that you can carry with you and
It's like
re-express. I think.
there's certain creations, there's certain fictions that feel like they're more it's more acceptable for them to be like for like fan fiction or whatever, like for fans to make their own stuff and not feel like it's just like Undertale. As much as I hate the fan base, that game feels
And
totally ready to be exploited. Like people
Undertale
can do whatever
itself
they want with
is
that
an
stuff.
example of that. It
Yeah,
is an example of an
because
Earthbound
of the Earthbound
inspired thing.
influence, sure.
And Lisa
Um,
too.
yeah, I don't. What is so? Can you explain to me the Lisa? I've got Lisa. I have the game. What is the? I've heard there's like 3 games or
You really should
something.
just play it. There's
Okay.
Lisa the First, which was a Yume Nikki clone that he made first. You don't really need to play that. Just play it afterwards if you're interested. You'll get all the context you need
So
in
I'm
Lisa
playing
the
the
Painful.
second one then.
You're playing Lisa the Painful RPG,
Okay.
which was like the real meaty game. And then there's Lisa the Joyful, which is an expansion slash epilogue
Okay.
for Lisa the Painful. But you gotta play Lisa the Joyful.
Yeah,
And
I
you,
was curious, and I didn't want to look.
if you finish Lisa, you'll want to play the Joyful.
Yeah, I didn't want to like read too much into it because I figured I'd get spoiled or something.
You
So,
shouldn't. Don't read
um,
anything about it if you can.
speaking of that kind of thing, what's the update on those people who were making the Smash Brothers thing that they had to stop?
Oh, Wave Dash or Project M? Project M was the
Uh,
project that shut down.
yeah, Project M, because those guys said they were gonna do something else, didn't they?
Yeah, they had like Wave Dash Studios or something, but I don't really care about another fighting game like Smash.
Right.
So much of the appeal of Smash is playing as those characters
I'm just
and there
kidding. I'm
being a
just curious if that stuff's
personality.
actually like if they're actually doing that or if it's kind of
I
dead in
don't
the
care
water.
really.
All
I
right.
haven't been following it.
There was a Smash Brothers tournament last weekend at UAB in Birmingham, and I didn't go. I wanted to, but I had something else to do. I don't know if it was actually like a big deal or not. I don't know how many people were scheduled to
They
show up,
usually
but
are. I mean,
it seemed like
not
it
a
would.
huge deal, but if there's a tournament at a university,
Yeah,
then
I mean
there's gonna be
Alabama's a
people
pretty
going there seriously.
Alabama's for whatever reason Alabama's a pretty big fighting game scene. Like Huntsville is where that famous video of the guy going, "Who bitch this is?"
Yeah,
You know?
they seem to be real into those traditional fighters.
Yeah, so that I want to go to one of those because it just seemed like so much fun.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They're really not as bad as people claim they are.
I just wish I knew how to play fighting games because I've never played them.
Just
Even
go.
Smash Brothers, I know how to play it, but I'm terrible, so I couldn't actually like
We should play.
be in the tournaments. Yeah, we really should, but I am like really bad. My brother-in-law, I play him sometimes in 64 and just get destroyed. And he's not even
64,
that great.
64 is really fun to watch, just because I didn't know this until I started to pay attention very recently. But hit stun in that game lasts a very, very long time. To the, it's not like you really notice it all that much when you're just playing casually,
Yeah.
but if you're watching people who are good at it do it, then the frame data is such that there's no room to get out of most things. Like if you land one hit, you just do the right thing and you kill the other guy. So they have 5 stocks instead of Melee's 4, and it's usually people just moving in and out of each other's ranges, and then once somebody gets an opening, they just carry it through to the
Yeah.
stock, and it's a different kind of game, not one that I'd want to watch a lot, but I'll watch it when it's on like VG Bootcamp's Twitch or something, because it's always unique and interesting. People will just the patience is incredible. It really is a different skill set
Yeah.
for that game, and for
I,
Brawl and for Smash 4.
I stand by that like Smash Brothers for a casual viewer is super fun to watch for me. I love it. I don't think
You
that's a
can
popular
get it.
opinion. Like it seems like more people like enjoying more enjoy the Street Fighter stuff. My screen keeps turning off. I don't know why. Um, but I love it because yeah, you can get it really easily from a superficial level of like, okay, here's what's going on. This guy has him in a combo and all that stuff. But like the combos themselves are just so much more fun for me to watch. Like they seem so much more creative, I guess. Like
Oh
there's just a
yeah.
lot more going on, and there's a lot more options for how they. Like I watched someone playing Yoshi one time where he like shits out the eggs,
Yep.
and he had someone on the outside of the map trying to get up and like getting hit by the eggs over and over and over, and he just hit him perfectly where like the guy had no like he just had him in a lock, but he was in a completely different part of the screen, and that's just stuff you don't see in other fighting games really, and it just seems like there's more.
Dominating somebody in Smash is so much flashier than doing
Yeah,
that in
and
Street
the
Fighter.
crowd reacts to it obviously because it's just like it feels like such a bigger deal. Because in a fighting game, someone gets put into a combo, and it's not going to last all that long because their health is going to go down and it's going to be a KO. And it just feels like it feels like there's less going on. Like they're just getting hit over and over. But in Smash Brothers, the way they get carried off the screen and stuff is there's something way more satisfying about it for a viewer. So I love it. Anyway. I don't have anything else to talk about. It's been kind of a short podcast, but whatever.
Swell.
Trying to think of anything. Oh, did you see the new trailer for Captain America: Civil War?
No,
Spider-Man's in it.
I heard that.
It's Spider-Man.
Great.
Good night, everyone.